Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and the new expansion for Hearthstone Rise of the Shadows is almost upon us, which means we can actually look at the cards in the actual Hearthstone application. So to do that, we need to go to My Collection, and then you go into crafting mode by clicking that button. Then click over here on the selector to limit yourself down to just Rise of the Shadows. And then you click Include Uncraftable Cards because it's not craftable because the expansion's not out. Now I have gone through the Druid and the Hunter and the Mage and the Paladin, Priest, Shaman, Rogue, and Warlock and Warrior classes. Each one of these hero classes has been given 10 cards that are specific and only playable by that hero class. And then the vast majority of all the new cards will be under the neutral set. So this is the point where if there are any questions, if there are any cards that seem like, well, they don't really synergize with anything inside their own class, or they don't seem like cards that would really be playable, maybe we'll find some neutral card here that makes a lot more sense. This is the connective tissue to this expansion. So far, it feels like at least 3 of the hero classes have been given kind of bad cards so that they get weaker, and 3 of the classes have been given slightly better cards so they get stronger, and then 3 of the classes are kind of neutral. So I don't think we're probably going to see too big of a change in the gameplay styles and the meta of Hearthstone. But we probably will see a few changes here and there and some new cards thrown in without, and it should be at least a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Perhaps 5 years in, Hearthstone should change a lot of things up and just like do a full 2.0 re-release of Hearthstone. I don't know what they could do that wouldn't irritate the current fan base, but maybe that would be helpful. But on the other hand, Artifact certainly didn't succeed, and it changed things quite a bit as a collectible card game style game. This is going to take a long time though, so I shouldn't stretch this out. We'll cover some basics here to begin with. I don't think there are any neutral spell cards, so this will be all minions. Like, to my knowledge, I don't think there are any neutral spell cards or weapons or secrets or anything like that, so it's just minions. This is a 1 mana, 1 attack, 1 health minion called Potion Vendor. As a battle cry to restore 2 health to all friendly characters. That'll work very well in the Priest. It's of common rarity, that's the lowest rarity. You can have 2 commons in a deck, and it's the least amount of dust you would get to craft it or get from decrafting it, uncrafting it. Next we have a 1 mana, 1 attack, 2 health minion called Toxfin, who's a Murloc class. Battlecry, give a friendly Murloc poisonous. This is probably not a Murloc you would want to play if you have all the other Murlocs. It's not super helpful to have a Murloc have poisonous, although maybe here and there that might be useful. The idea of playing Murlocs though is to play early game and win early before the 5th, 6th, 7th turn. If you haven't won by that point and somebody can summon something that's really powerful that you would need poisonous to kill, you've probably lost the game anyways. In fact, if you're just trying to save time, if you make it to the 5th or 6th turn and it doesn't look like you're going to win with Murlocs, you might as well just concede at that point. Particularly if you're not trying to play ranked and you're just trying to get casual victories. Next we have a 2 mana, 2 attack, 3 health elemental class minion called the Arcane Servant. This is the first minion we've seen in this expansion that has not had a special effect. And I imagine eventually we'll have no more expansions that are like that have minions like that, because there's only so many different 2 mana, 2 attack, 3 health minions you can have. The only thing special about this is that it's an elemental, so if you have other cards that synergize with elementals, this might be worth having in your deck, but probably isn't, even at that. Next we have a 2 mana, 2 attack, 3 health minion called Dallin Librarian. Battlecry, silence adjacent minions. There are a few minions out there that have effects like can't attack, where it would make sense to silence your own minions, but in most instances it's not worth having something like this in your deck. Next we have a 2 mana, 1 attack, 1 health beast type minion called the Evil Cable Rat. Battlecry, add a lackey to your hand. As I understand it, lackeys are 1 mana, 1 attack, 1 health minions with special abilities, random special abilities. So far though, I haven't really seen a reason to want to play a lackey deck. I haven't seen anything that says get +1/+1 for every lackey you've had in the game, or in any way otherwise reduce the cost of a minion because of the number of lackeys you've played. So lackeys don't seem like they synergize with anything right now. This expansion could have gone the way of a previous expansion, and it could have reintroduced the concept of having specific alliances in some of these cards. There was, in a previous expansion, some neutral cards that could only actually be played with like the Mage, the Warrior, and the Paladin, that just pick 3 random sets. So only 3 hero classes could play that card, even though it was labeled as neutral. It was probably a terrible idea, frankly, and it wasn't explained well, and so that's probably why they're not bringing it back. That being said, that was it Cabals, the Cabals cards. Having Cabals in the storyline with the Rise of the Shadows expansion would have made sense canonically, storyline wise. This is a 2 mana, 2 attack, 1 health beast, Hinch Clan Hag steed. It has rush, which means it can attack a minion on the turn it's summoned, and it has a death rattle ability to summon a 1/1 Murloc. That's probably not too bad for a Murloc deck, actually, because yeah, that works pretty good, actually. So you might replace some other Murlocs with this. I feel like I am skipping or missing something, but I'm really not. Let's see. It was like the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, I believe, had the Cabal cards. And that's a wild set now, so... Or maybe it was Kobolds. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like we're just burning through this, and all of these cards are common cards. Which is slightly surprising, that the entire first page would be common cards. Let's see, did we look at everything? No, we skipped this one. Next we have a 2 mana, 0 attack, 6 health elemental with spell damage +1. This would work pretty well in a Mage deck. It's called Mana's Reserve, or Reservoir. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad at all, frankly. For any deck you're going to play to get spell damage for 2 mana and have probably 3 turns in which it would stay on the field before somebody got around to killing it. Next is a 2 mana, 3 attack, 2 health minion called Spellbook Binder. Battlecry, if you have spell damage, draw a card. I assume that means spell damage +1 or more. Draw a card. This is the first time I've ever seen a card say if you have some kind of damage, if you have spell damage, do something else. So that's interesting, certainly. And yes, again, that would work, I guess, for a Mage deck. In fact, both of these cards feel like they should have been Mage cards instead, but that inherently that's what the neutral cards always are, is that somebody had more ideas than the tin that they could fit into the Mage class, so they just made him neutral anyways. And it really doesn't matter. Ideally, I kind of want all the minions and all the cards to be neutral and get rid of class-specific cards, but allegedly it balances out the game. I'm not sure how much it really does. It probably wouldn't matter one bit if they got rid of class-specific cards and made everything neutral. That would be a big way to change things, is just to say, hey, we're just going to throw some chaos in here, and all cards are playable by all hero classes. Next page, we have a 2 mana, 2 attack, 3 health minion called the Sun Reaver Spy. Battlecry, if you control a secret, gain +1/+1. That's not as good as the Secret Keeper, but if you're playing a lot of secrets as a hunter, you might want to play this card on top of Secret Keeper, which gets +1/+1 for every secret you play. Next we have a 3 mana, 5 attack, 6 health. That's quite a lot of attack and health for 3 mana. Arcane Watcher, can't attack unless you have spell damage. Well, again, Mage card. Seems like they're trying to make Mage a lot more successful in this expansion, and that's probably the right thing to do. Next we have a 3 mana, 5 attack, 1 health minion called the Faceless Rager. It has a Battlecry, copy of friendly minion's health, so it almost certainly would not be a 5/1 actually when you play it, but it could be almost anything. Next we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health minion called the Flight Master. Battlecry, summon a 2/2 Griffin for each player. Unless there's something specific about Griffin, spelled in a weird way, I don't see much of a reason for that. But I mean, it would be fine to play this card. You probably could find something better though. And still, these are all... Alright, this one is rare. This blue gem is rare. But we haven't seen an epic, and this is a legendary. And you could only have 1 legendary in your decks. Let's see. Next card we have is a 3 mana, 3 attack, 3 health minion called the Hinch Clan Sneak. It has stealth. I believe this is the first stealth card we've seen. Stealth, it's fine. It gets used here and there. It doesn't really do much, but it's a cool idea, and I don't think there would be a reason you'd want to eliminate it from the game completely. So every now and then when there's an expansion, just give something stealth. Take note that this costs exactly 3 mana, gives you exactly 3 attack and exactly 3 health, and a pretty mediocre ability. That's kind of where the power curve is right now, although the power curve is just constantly slowly going up. But that's kind of what you expect, is something that costs 3 mana, should have 3 attack and 3 health, and probably do something, but not something amazing. Next we have a 3 mana, 1 attack, 6 health, and if you balance that out, then that would be about a 3 to a 4 comparison, or a 4 to 3 comparison for 3 mana. This is an epic card called Magic Carpet. After you play a 1-cost minion, give it +1 attack and rush. I think I already said, but rush means you can attack a minion when the same turn you're summoned, but you can't attack the enemy hero. This is cool and all, and it might work pretty well for a Murloc deck. So I think this is probably worth playing if you're playing low-level 1-cost minions. But this probably, as you get more cards, would prove less and less useful. You're really not going to succeed even playing a Murloc deck if you're trying to just play all 1-cost minions. And what's funny here, in the way this is phrased, if you played a 0-cost minion like the Wisp, you probably wouldn't get +1 attack and rush. It has to be exactly a 1-cost minion, at least the way it's phrased. I would be surprised if it actually doesn't work that way, but I don't know how you'd phrase it better. Next we have a 3 mana, 3 attack, 4 health rare minion called Spellward Jewelr. As a battle cry, your hero can't be targeted by spells or hero powers until the next turn. This is a fine card, but again, a card that nobody would play if you have something better. Your hero is rarely going to lose because it was targeted by a spell or a hero power. If there was something like this that would be an antidote to Mechathune, or an antidote to a one-turn kill idea, that would be interesting. But I don't think that there is, and the closest thing would be just giving yourself invincibility for one turn, and there's a couple of cards that will do that. Next, this is the card everybody got, and I imagine everybody will play. This is a 4 mana, 2 attack, 6 health minion that you can play right now, called Archmage Vargoth, legendary minion, so you can only have one in your deck. At the end of your turn, cast a spell you've cast this turn. Targets are random. Is probably too random a card for any people trying to go pro in Hearthstone, but for anybody new or even in the middle, this is probably a fun random card to play. But you would want to balance it out in a deck where you are playing a lot of spells too. So I don't know, maybe a secret paladin or spell hunter spell deck or something. And even then, that's pretty crazy. I want to find Jabberwocky, which is a card that's already out, and see if that's still in standard or if that moved to wild, because that will affect playing a bunch of spells and synergize somewhat well with this card. Next we have a 4 mana, 3 attack, 8 health mech type minion called the Heckle bot. It has taunt, so it has to be attacked first. And a battle cry, your opponent summons a minion from their deck. That's pretty much an awful card. Like, summoning a random minion from your opponent's deck for them is almost never going to be a bad thing for your opponent. And for 3 attack and 8 health taunt, I don't see a reason to do this. The only way this would really mess somebody up is if it summoned Mechathune, but even if it did summon Mechathune, at that point Mechathune is so strong that it still would be a great benefit for your opponent. Next we have a 4 mana, 3 attack, 3 health minion called the Hinch Clan Hag. Battlecry, summon 2 1/1 amalgams with all minion types. So there's already a card called the Amalgam, and this summons 2 more. That's useful in quite a few places, so this is actually a very good card, I would say, particularly if you can double the battle cry and then you have 4 amalgams on the field. But it is also pretty technical and pretty difficult card to wrap your head around if you're new to the game. So don't try to play it if you don't understand it. Next we have a 4 mana, 5 attack, 2 health demon type minion called the Portal Keeper. Battlecry, summon 3 portals into your deck. When drawn, it summons a 2/2 demon with Rush. That's not bad. It's low on health, but having potentially 3 2/2 demons summoned automatically gives you basically a 6/6 plus this 5/2, so you're talking an 11/8 for 4 mana. That's incredibly good, actually. So even if you're not playing a demon deck, you might want to play Portal Keeper. Next we have a 4 mana, 2 attack, 6 health minion called the Proud Defender. It has taunt, and it has +2 attack while you have no other minions on the field. Although, if you have no other minions on the field by the 4th turn, you're probably doing something wrong. So you might not play this as much as you think. Next we have a 4 mana, 5 attack, 6 health minion, elemental minion, called Soldier of Fortune. Whenever this minion attacks, give an opponent a coin. It's nice to see a card that does the coin mechanic again. There's only 3 or 4 cards in the entire game that do that, and it's an interesting idea. This is also a minion that if you scienced it yourself, you'd be perfectly happy to do that, so you stop giving your opponent coins. Although, if you fill your opponent's hand with coins, he will potentially destroy a card if he has to draw more cards. So there might be an extremely technical strategy here where your opponent has, let's say, 9 cards. You attack, you put the 10th card in his hand. I think you can only have 10 cards, maybe 12. I never remember. But once he has the maximum number of cards in his hand, if you can then play something that makes him draw a bunch of cards, everything he draws gets destroyed by default. So you can really destroy his opportunities and his plans in the future by doing that. But that's, again, highly technical. Next, we have a 4 mana, 3 attack, 2 health minion called the Traveling Healer. Divine Shield, Battlecry, restore 3 health. I think you could probably play this in the Priest deck or a Paladin deck if you're trying to play a bunch of Divine Shield minions just fine. This is, yeah, perfectly fine, even though it's a little low on the health and a little low on the attack. Next, we have a 4 mana, 1 attack, 6 health minion called the Violet Spell Sword. Battlecry, gain +1 attack for each spell in your hand. If you're playing as the Mage, this probably would work really, really well. Although, I'm not sure, even playing as a Mage, that on average you'd have more than 4 spells in your hand. So you're at best going to get a 5/6 for 4, which is still good enough. Definitely don't play this if you don't have any spells in your deck, though. That would be a bad mistake. Next, we have a 5 mana, 2 attack, 7 health elemental called Azurite Elemental. At the start of your turn, gain spell damage +2. I am not sure if this means every turn. If it does, that's crazy, because 4 or 5 turns in, you might have a spell damage +10. 5 turns in, yeah, that would be spell damage +10. Or maybe what this means is you don't have spell damage during your opponent's turn, but that would never matter at all, I don't think. So it kind of implies to me that every turn you're going to get spell damage +2. And that would be great for the Malygos deck, certainly, which has spell damage +5, Malygos does. So, or this, would be pretty good for a Mage deck and pretty good for an Elemental deck too. Moving on. Next we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 5 health legendary minion called Barista Lycan. I guess it's not Lycan. Maybe it is Lycan. Battlecry, add a copy of each of your other Battlecry minions to your hand. This is crazy because you play this in a deck that has only one other Battlecry card on it, or only a few other Battlecry cards in your deck. Then you get a copy immediately, and you know exactly what you're getting, because if you only have like 5 Battlecry cards in your hand, this is a second opportunity to draw that. I probably couldn't explain how useful this would be, but it almost certainly is extremely, extremely useful, and you'll see top tier players using it to do a bunch of crazy things. Next we have a 5 mana, 5 attack, 4 health minion called Dallin Crusader. It has just Divine Shield, which I kind of thought Paladin only cards had Divine Shield, but apparently now it's coming to neutral, and that's fine. That doesn't really change the balance of the gameplay any. Next we have a 5 mana, 3 attack, 6 health minion called Recurring Villain. Death Rattle, if this minion has 4 or more attack, resummon it. If you're playing a deck that buffs your minions and gives them more attack quite often, I would say maybe play this, but probably not. It doesn't really feel like that's too worth it. And even if you're playing a Death Rattle deck that triggers Death Rattles multiple times so that you could maybe get multiple copies of this, I still don't think that's probably worth it. Moving on, we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 4 health minion called the Sun Reaver War Mage. Battlecry, if you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, deal 4 damage. This might work well with a Shaman because you probably would have a Bloodlust in your hand quite often to do 4 damage. But I'm not sure it's really worth anything else. It's a little too expensive because you effectively have to have 10 mana's worth of cards in your hand. You have to have a spell that costs 5 more and play this for 5 mana. And then you just end up with a 4/4 that does 4 damage. So I'd probably pass on that for just how complicated it is. Next is a 6 mana, 6 attack, 4 health minion called the Eccentric Scribe. It has a Death Rattle to summon 4 1/1 Vengeful Scrolls. Again, I have no idea what a Vengeful Scroll is. There's plenty of room here. They could have shown me what Vengeful Scrolls could possibly have been, if they have special effects or what. Is it just one special effect that destroys the minion that kills it, or is it random special effects? We really won't know unless I went and spent the extra effort to look up what Vengeful Scrolls are, or just until I play the card, or see other people play the card. And I'm not too interested in that. Otherwise, though, I guess it's fine. It's fine amount of attack and health. Next, we have a 6 mana, 4 attack, 4 health demon minion called the Mad Summoner. Battlecry, fill each player's board with 1/1 imps. There's maybe a few reasons why you'd want to fill your opponent's board with imps, so that they could, for maybe one turn, not summon something really big instead. So if you played this on the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th turn, that would make sense. But it really only is going to buy you one turn, because if there are 7 imps on your opponent's side, which is the maximum per side, they'll just attack the 7 imps on your side, and that will kill at least one of those imps to make room to summon something else. And actually, you would only have 6 imps on your side because you'd be playing this card. So you would be down 1 imp, and one would be a 4/4. Not that that matters much. So it's probably more effort than it's worth, that card. Next, we have a 6 mana, 5 attack, 6 health demon minion called the Portal Overfiend. Battlecry, shuffle 3 portals into your deck. When drawn, summon a 2/2 demon with Rush. That seems very similar to a previous card we've already seen. Not a bad card, though. 6 mana for a 5/6 plus 3 2/2s, which is effectively then a 11/12 minion. And they have Rush. Interest. That sounds perfectly good to me. Although I probably wouldn't just throw a demon into an already good deck, just for no reason. Next, we have a 6 mana, 4 attack, 5 health mech minion called Safeguard. It has Taunt, and it has a Death Rattle to summon a 0/5 Vault safe with Taunt. So effectively, it's a 4/10 minion, plus for 6 mana. Plus, you could play this in a Death Rattle deck and try to trigger its Death Rattle more often. This probably would work very good in the Malygos deck to buy you more time. Trigger this Death Rattle several times and you get 0/5 minions with Taunt. And if you have enough cards in this expansion with Taunt, we'll start out seeing more people playing silence cards again. Nowadays, you'll have maybe one silence card in a deck, and that's it. But a lot of times you can go without even having that one card in the deck. So if we start seeing, oh no, there's actually some good Taunt defense minions in the meta again, we'll need those cards. We'll be back to playing Ironbeak Owl all in every deck, which is a silence minion. Next we have a 6 mana, 5 attack, 6 health minion called Unseen Saboteur. Your opponent casts a random spell from their hand. Targets are chosen randomly. This might work against Mage people and people playing Malygos, or people trying to play specific strategies. But that's really top tier rank 1 legendary type play. I imagine a lot of experts in Hearthstone will play this to try and ruin other people's strategies. But if you're just mid-tier or low tier, playing this would probably cause you more pain and suffering than it's worth. But I imagine, yeah, this was one of the few cards that seems like it's specifically for top tier players. Next we have a 6 mana, 4 attack, 7 health minion called the Violet Warden. It has taunt and spell damage +1. A lot of spell damage +1 cards. They're really trying to make Mage be a lot more successful, and I think they're going to succeed at that. Next we have a 7 mana, 6 attack, 6 health legendary minion called Chef Nami. Battlecry: if your deck is empty, summon 6/6/6 Greasefire Elementals. How would this help you, though? Like, that really feels like, alright, you've run out of cards, and this is your last opportunity to fill your board with 7/6/6 minions. This one and 6 of the Greasefire Elementals. I assume that the Greasefire Elementals don't have any special ability or do anything otherwise. Having 7 on the field is enough for a 1-turn kill, but I don't think they have rush or charge or anything, so it would take you 2 turns. And by the 7th turn, you shouldn't have run out of cards. So you're probably going to be closer to the 20th turn before you would want to play something like this. Although, it's probably a good backup strategy. If you've just run out of everything else, it's like, I am completely out of cards at this point. Let's play this. Also, there's other cards that will synergize with this that are highly technical. There's a way in which you can empty and draw all your cards, and then play a minion that will swap your deck with your opponent's deck. Thus, you have all his cards, which that would then allow you to trigger this and get all of his cards on a much earlier point. And there's a strategy on top of that strategy where you can put Corrupted Blood in a deck with no cards, and then what Corrupted Blood does is when it's drawn, it does damage to you and puts 2 copies of Corrupted Blood back in your deck. So if you can make sure there's nothing but Corrupted Blood cards in your deck and then swap it for your opponent's deck, when they draw a card, they'll get in this infinite cycle and lose before they can do anything. Although this wouldn't really synergize with that too much, but it might be a good backup plan. Next we have a 7 mana, 5 attack, 8 health minion called the Exotic Mount Seller. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a random 3-cost beast. If you're going to play Spell Hunter, where there's absolutely no minions in your deck at all, you can't play this. If you played this and then nothing but spells, that doesn't make a lot of sense either. This is just really random. It might be fine if you have nothing better for your 7th turn to have this, or if most of your deck is really low cost beasts or low cost minions, maybe this makes sense so that you can just get more beasts on the field. But it's very random, and you wouldn't see a pro want to play something this random, certainly. Next we have a 7 mana, 3 attack, 7 health minion called the Tunnel Blaster. It has taunt and a death rattle to deal 3 damage to all minions, which is 1 more damage than the last minion they made that had taunt and did damage to everybody. But this is actually not as good as that minion, because that minion has taunt, it costs less mana, and it does 2 damage to the enemy and your heroes also. So it does at least 4 more damage than this does. This is only good, I suppose, around the 7th turn if you need to kill minions that have exactly 3 health remaining. And the trade-off there is spending 7 mana for something that just has 3 attack. So I don't think this is actually that good. I might be wrong about that, but I think it's probably a bad deal. Next we have a 7 mana, 3 attack, 5 health minion called the Underbelly Ooze. After this minion survives damage, summon a copy of it. There have been a couple of cards like this, and they can be used certainly to drive people crazy and summon a bunch of copies. Warrior has a spell called Whirlwind that does 1 damage to all minions. So if you can play 1 spell to deal damage to this and it makes a copy, then you play Whirlwind and it does damage to the 2 copies that would be on the field. You'd have 4, and you could probably play Whirlwind a second time and fill your all 7 up with slightly damaged minions that each have 3 attack, and at that point probably would have about 3 or 2 health. Even at that though, you're going to have to start off at the 10th turn, because you would have to play this on the 7th turn. Maybe you could play on the 8th turn to play Whirlwind and damage things and make a bunch of copies. But yeah, this is definitely not a card that seems like it would synergize to a 1-turn kill. But there might be a trick to this. You might be able to buff it up and then deal 1 damage to it, and then you'd get a copy of the buffed version so it does more than 3 attack, and then continuously do more damage to it and make copies that way. So you'd have to certainly have about 5 to 6 cards that you know the exact order you want to play them in to work with this, but it might work for a 1-turn kill. Next we have an 8 mana, 7 attack, 7 health legendary minion called the Archivist Elysiana, maybe? Archivist Elysiana, that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Battlecry, discover 5 cards. Replace your deck with 2 copies of each. That seems crazy in a couple different ways. This is the first card in the game to have you discover 5 cards instead of discovering 3 cards. So I don't know what the idea here is. This almost certainly has something to do with the Mage winning, and probably with Sorcerer's Apprentice and Archmage Antonidas. Like, if you could discover the 2 Sorcerer's Apprentices, Archmage Antonidas, spell that would duplicate and copy the Sorcerer's Apprentices 2 more times, and Fire Blast. That would be like 4 or 5 cards. And then if you replaced the rest of your deck with just Fire Blasts or Sorcerer's Apprentices, then that might work for you. But the odds of those being the 5 cards you discover are insanely low. Yeah, this is just so incredibly random. I don't think this would ever work for anybody. Not a low tier player, not a high tier player. Like, it's just randomness upon randomness upon randomness. And frankly, I'd like it to replace both players' deck with 2 copies of each of those cards if you're going to do that. That would be more interesting, I suppose. Next, we have an 8 mana, 3 attack, 12 health. That's the highest health we've seen in this expansion. Epic card, epic minion called Batterhead. Rush, after this attacks and kills a minion, it may attack again. It still, I assume, would only have a rush at that point on the first turn it's played. So first turn it's played, it could attack and kill a minion. It could potentially attack and kill 7 minions on the field, but it wouldn't be able to attack the hero on the first turn it's played. Second turn that it's been on the field, if your opponent had played a minion, you could attack and kill that minion, and then attack the heroes to do 3 damage, but that would be it. Like, you wouldn't be able to attack multiple times after that. So you could consistently, with some buffs and healing, possibly keep this card on the field so that it always is clearing the field of minions and doing 1 attack per turn to the enemy's face. But that would be a lot of cards for not much of a reward, frankly. Next, we have an 8 mana, 4 attack, 4 health minion called Heroic Innkeeper. It has Taunt and a Battlecry, gain +2/+2 for every friendly minion. So that means that this could be as high as a +12/+12 if you had 6 other minions on the field, which would be a taunt of 16 and 16, which is actually incredibly good. It's odd that this is just a common card. Put this in your deck if you plan on making it to the 8th turn, particularly if you have specific ways to have 6 other minions on the field by the 8th turn. There's not any bigger strategy around this, though. It's just do this so that you can get a big taunt minion. I guess in every instance where you don't have 6 minions on the field, though, it's going to get weaker and weaker. So if you were to play this on the 8th turn and you had no other minions, then you would just have a 4/4. That's no good. You would need to have at least 2 minions on the field to make it an 8/8 and break even. So if by the 8th turn you always have at least 3 minions on the field in the decks you're playing, this is probably worth considering if you've got nothing better. But there probably is something better out there, like the Knights of the Frozen Throne taunt guy. He's probably way better. Next, we have an 8 mana, 6 attack, 6 health. I'm getting tongue-tied. Minion called Geppetto Joybuzz. Battlecry, draw 2 minions from your deck, set their attack, health, and cost to 1. Now this says just draw 2 minions from your deck. That means usually, as I've seen it and as I understand it, it will just pick 2 random minions from your deck and set their attack, health, and cost to 1. That's only going to be useful if you've got some very special cards on there. If you have Mechathune in your deck and 1 other minion, and it summons Mechathune and has it as a 1/1, you would then have to kill the other 2 minions and get rid of all the cards in your hand and get rid of all the other cards in your deck for Mechathune to win. I can't really think of any other minions that it would even make sense. Yeah, that just seems like it's basically doing nothing for no reason. Just random. I'd like to see somebody actually win a game using this ability. I'd like to see the strategy behind this, because I cannot think of a legitimate strategy for it. It seems just crazy. This one, speaking of crazy, looks like it is awesome, particularly for Shaman decks, which tend to have Wind Fury abilities. 8 mana, 6 attack, 6 health elemental minion Whirlwind Tempest. Your minions with Wind Fury have Mega Wind Fury. Mega Wind Fury means you can attack 4 times per turn instead of twice per turn. If you have even one other minion on the field with Wind Fury and you give it Mega Wind Fury instead, there is a decent chance by the 8th turn you're going to win right then and there. Because they would really only need 8, like 8, 16, 32, yeah. Yeah, they'd only need an attack of 8, and that would just be one minion with attack of 8, or 2 minions with a combined attack of 8, or whatever. It seems like it would be pretty easy to win with this. Plus, this would work well in an elemental deck. Vicious Fledgling, in particular, would be a great card for this to synergize with. Next, we have a 9 mana, 9 attack, 9 health minion called the Burly Shovel Fist. It has a rush. Not bad, actually. It's just straight and simple. It has rush. It doesn't have charge. They kind of hate charge, is the speculation. So I doubt we'll see too many more cards that have charge in their description. Instead, they're making everything be rush. And then finally, we have a 10 mana, 6 attack, 6 health minion called Big Bad Archmage. At the end of your turn, summon a random 6 cost minion. Which, okay, that's probably perfectly fine at 10 mana. This is probably a perfectly fine card to play in almost any deck. But it is also a 10th turn card, so you probably wouldn't want to play it in any deck because it's just so expensive. But certainly just any random 6 cost minion on top of a 6/6 probably will work just fine. So there was a couple of things I wanted to just check out before we wrap up here. Overall, it seems like this expansion, like a lot of the previous expansions, aren't doing anything great. But they aren't doing anything awful either. So it's just kind of moving forward, continuing Hearthstone, making it still playable, making little tweaks here and there. This one is actually doing quite a lot for the Mage, and so that I imagine we'll start seeing a lot of Mage players succeeding a lot more. So I wanted to look at Shudderwalk. It's a legendary from the Witchwood expansion. I don't have it. The Witchwood is not going into Wild for a while. So this is a Shaman card, and it has a battle cry to repeat all of the battle cries cards you've played this game. There have been several cards in which that would make sense. So if you are playing a Shudderwalk deck, which this is a very annoying way to win in a one-turn kill deck, so you've probably seen quite a few people play this. But the new cards are probably going to have more people playing that. The other card that was Vicious Fledgling, here. When this beast attacks, it adapts. That means you get to pick from 3 abilities. One of those abilities is Wind Fury. It's probably the best Wind Fury card that doesn't have Wind Fury, because it then adapts when you attack a second time. As soon as it does have Wind Fury, if that other card gives it Mega Wind Fury, it would adapt quite a lot. And one of the adaptations that you can have is +3 attack. Meanwhile, if you want to play Wind Fury, there's several Shaman cards that have Wind Fury or give minions Wind Fury. And there's not a ton of that, but Corpse Taker is probably pretty good to play with this card too. Gain Taunt if your deck has a Taunt minion. Repeat for Divine Shield, Lifesteal, and Wind Fury. So if you just have Wind Fury minions and you don't have anything with Taunt or Divine Shield or Lifesteal, it doesn't matter. It still would have Wind Fury, and then it would work just fine with that. Not really a lot, though. So if you're not going to play Shaman, probably don't play Wind Fury. And then, let's see. Throne. See if we can find the Knights of the Frozen Throne card I'm thinking of. That would be probably one of the best minions. Here it is, the Lich King. I should remember that name. If you randomly got a 1/1 copy of this on your side, you at the end of your turn, assuming it survived, would get a Death Knight card, which Death Knight cards are very powerful. And the Lich King expansion, Frozen Throne expansion, is the next couple that will go into Wild, but I think that will be a while too. So yeah. Overall, I'm giving it probably a B+ as far as the expansions. There's 24 pages here of cards, 10 for each hero class, and some of them make sense, a lot of them don't really make sense, but it's not been as bad as other expansions. And let's be honest here, Ben Brode, who was seen as kind of the figurehead, the guy in charge of Hearthstone, has left the building and moved on to second dinner. A significant amount of people at Activision Blizzard have left the building and gone to other companies. A lot of people at Activision Blizzard have been laid off. So the fact that this expansion doesn't feel lesser in any way is probably the best we could hope for. Maybe the next expansion will actually reflect what the remaining team at Activision Blizzard is actually capable of doing. On the other hand, I imagine Hearthstone and not Heroes of the Storm, but Overwatch are probably the top two Blizzard things that they are still going to focus on. So yeah, I'm happy with this expansion. Looking forward to whenever it comes out, whether that is in Tuesday or in Thursday or some other point. That's fine. You still have time if you want to spend real money to spend $80 to get a face replacement skin and a card back, or you could spend $50 US to buy 50 packs and what is this, a legendary deck and a card replacement pack. One thing I certainly would have liked to see is a way to use in-game gold to get these hero replacements or to get old card packs. A lot of the card backs, not card packs, we can't use in-game gold to get card backs. A lot of the old card backs, there's just no way anybody's ever going to get them except for really old players. So why not let me use dust or gold to get that? I would like to see that added to the expansion. Anyways, we're done with this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. And don't forget to click that notification bell too. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.